Hey guys, Alex here with CKK Industries. You know, if you've been following our DIY workshop series, you recognize this workbench as the 8-foot model that Robbie did for us in our basic workbench build video. What we want to do today is we want to show you what basic tools you're going to need for holster making and how you might lay them out for effective workspace usage. As you'll notice, I have a drill press, flaring press, molding press, and a Kalamazoo grinder. We drill our eyelet holes, flare our eyelets, mold our kydex, and sand the edges of our kydex in order. Now, I like to leave a little workspace in the center so that I can work my kydex and score it, cut it, break it, and what I have to do with it. Normally, I'd be working on the other side of the workbench, but for the sake of this introduction, I'm standing behind it to show you what it might look like. But I'm going to eventually slide it up next to the wall, and that's where it's going to go permanently. So, you'll notice the tools that we have are a socket with an extension, 3-inch lag bolt with a washer, 1.5-inch lag bolts. We'll be using those to mount all of our tools today. We also have safety glasses and a standard hand drill with a small diameter drill. Anything inside the diameter of your threads and you're good to go. Okay guys, let's get her started. Okay guys, the first tool we want to mount is our Kalamazoo sander. Get my glasses on. What we're going to do with the sander is notice that we want the platen inside of the workbench front. And that way when you're walking around your workbench, you don't catch it with your clothing or something like that. I've always found that it's nice to have it inside of the table, basically flush with the front edge. We're going to be using 1.5-inch lag bolts. We'll be using our standard socket with an extension on it. And of course, we're going to drill our pre-holes with our little hand drill. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first thing we want to do is we want to drill the first pilot hole. I've drilled that inside of the supporting 2x4 under the bottom of the bench so that it gets the maximum amount of wood to grab a hold of. We're going to take our first lag bolt, run it in. Notice I haven't drilled the other hole yet. We're going to go ahead and sink one of these bolts in. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it so that it doesn't move around on us when we drill. Make sure that when you run this in, that you don't take it all the way down too tight because you don't want it to pull the threads back through your 2x4 under there. As you know, it's fairly soft wood, so it's easy enough to booger it up. Once you feel it tightening up, get your socket off and check it. Might go a little tighter. All I want to do with that first one is to basically hold my sander in place. I'm going to come around the back side. It has an equal hole that you can't see back here, but it's the same basic mount. Don't have to be too deep. Go ahead and get your lag bolt. Make sure you start it out straight up and down, guys. Nothing worse than coming in at an angle. Makes your work look a little bit less than professional. And if you got it straight up and down, it seats up good on the flange. Run it in there nice and easy. Don't over tighten it. Once you get it down toward the bottom and you feel it flushing out, start easing off and just get it tight. What you want to do now is test it and make sure that you're good. All right, going down and retighten that front. Now don't over tighten it and pull it through the wood now. Just flush it up good. Take you a good look at it there. Once you got it flushed, test it out, make sure it's all good and sturdy, and you're good to go. All right, one tool down, 3 more to go. Okay guys, we finished our Kalamazoo sander and it's time to get our press mounted in. What we want to do with our press is notice that we don't want it too far off the edge of the bench that we can't attach the retaining chain. Okay, so the first thing you want to do on that is get it in position, which I have done. Set your top plate off, and when it ships to you, remember that the bottom and the top foam are double side taped and they're easy to remove, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to come around and we're going to drill our pilot holes. And let's get that thing mounted. Get that exactly where you want it. Put your first hole in. Good sharp drill bit works like butter, guys. The first one, just run it on in there and get it past hand tight. Go ahead and snug your one up. And what this first one's going to do is it's going to set the position of the base plate so that when you drill your other holes, it doesn't move around on you. Get that thing good and square, but not too tight. And that should take care of it right there. Good and snug. Now, I recommend that you go to your opposite side. Okay, run your lag bolt in there. Once you get it on down there, remember, do not over tighten it. Wait to feel it start to get a little tight. You know it's flushing out, and then just ease off on it. Nice and clean work. All right, now you're good to go, and you can drill all the rest of your holes. Just go nice and easy and keep them straight up and down as best you can. This hole here, let me go ahead and explain that this is on the chain side. If you're a right-handed person, you're going to want it on the right side of the arm. That's so when you pull it up, you can push down with your right hand. What you're trying to do is push the press and just simply slide the chain into the locking position. If you're a lefty, the opposite effect. Pushing with your left hand, fastening your chain with your right hand. I'm a right-hander, so I'm going to use the right side. Okay? Let's get this end hole drilled. Okay, go ahead and run our lag bolts in on the corners. Now you see why I use the extension, because you're clearing some tools here. Again, when you get it down close to tight, ease off and just flush it up good. Okay, now we're ready to put our bottom foam in. Take your bottom foam, put it all the way to your back plate, where the angles come up, and then simply set it in. Nice on the sides. And that replacement foam is available at knife kits and holstersmith.com. We make it easy to get on and off, and you really don't have to glue it down. Just put some two-side tape on it, and you're good to go. Same stuff we use when we ship it to you. That's an exclusive product. I helped design that press, and that's been one of our best-selling items ever. Okay, go ahead and put your top plate in. Get a good feel of it, make sure everything's good to go. You notice I don't have it too far off the edge, but I do have enough to where I can get some weight on it. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to put our chain in. Take your chain, put it in the end link. Now that you've tested everything and we're good, let's smooth that hole out that we started. Okay, now remember on this one, don't tighten it all the way down. At the very end, you're going to let it have a little bit of freedom to move that chain around. It needs to move around just a bit. Okay, so let's run it on down. Make sure you keep it good and straight. Get it down there where it can move a little, but not too much. And that's too much, so back off just a bit. And that ought to be just about fine. I'm back off maybe one little bit extra so that I can get it up over the flange. There you go. That's what you want. You want it so you can get it out of the way. Lay it over there and you're good to set it off to the side. Now when you put your press together and you put some pressure on it, you can simply run it through one of the chain links. It'll actually be raised a little bit because your item's going to hold it open. Okay? Put your pressure down, run your chain in there, and you should be good to go. Just like that right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our 3-inch lag bolts. We have a larger base on this. This is our CKK flaring press. This is moved to the front edge of the bench. Also on this press right here, if you notice, I've got the handle set so that it basically locks in the up position, but you want to test it when you're bringing it down. Make sure that you don't bind yourself on your bench, okay? If you do, take your collar off, slide your arbor arm up or down one of the gears, and you should be good, set just fine, okay? You want to make sure that right here is where you get your pressure on the front end of your bench, and I'll show you that when I come around there, okay? But for the sake of drilling your holes, let's get it out of the way. All right, I'm going to use 3.5-inch lag bolts, and I'm going to meet you around the front of the bench. Okay, once again, we'll be using our drill, our socket with extension, and we're going to be using 3.5-inch lag bolts with washers on them. First thing we want to do is drill our first pilot hole. Go real easy with this. You don't want it to jump out of position. Now you're not going to be putting a lot of pressure on this tool, so you don't need a backing block. But if you needed to on your bench, if you're going to be mounting something that's going to have a lot of torque put on it, just put your piece of wood behind it and run your lag bolt through it so that it grabs it from the backside to reinforce your standard deck that you're using for the top surface. In our case, as you know, Robbie used 3/4-inch plywood, so it's pretty sturdy, but you can put a backer on it and draw it down just a little bit tighter. Because it's this tool, I'm not going to need to really use that much pressure on it, so I'm not going to be required to put that on there. Let me get that started good, and I can feel it starting to get tight. So let's go ahead and run it in straight up and down. Very important. Get it started straight up and down. Okay, it's starting to tighten up a little on me, straightening itself out, and we're going to ease down on it, and we're just going to check it. Yep, we're good to go. You don't want to bend your washer. Okay, now check the front alignment, make sure everything's good to go. And we're looking real good there, so let's go ahead and run a pilot hole right in there. You don't need to put a large hole in that. It doesn't even have to go all the way through. Just something to get your thread started. Go ahead and put your socket on it. And help line it up in the hole. There we go. Get a little bit tighter, so I'm going to start easing off. Just don't want to strip anything out. All right, now it's tightening off, so just get it down by hand, take a look at it, make sure you don't have any deformity in the washer, and I think you're good to go. Come back and test it real good, and yeah, that thing's ready to rock and roll. Okay, so you got it now so that you can set it in the open position when you put your bottom guide in there, put your flares on it. It's going to be nice with plenty of clearance, but again, if you need to, just take it apart, take the collar off, slide the arm out, move it up, put it back together, you're good to go. Again, where you want your pressure is right off the front, because you're not going to put a lot of pressure on it, but you want it so that you've got the maximum amount of leverage on it when you're flaring. Just like that right there. Okay guys, I'm around the back again here, and I want to show you the last thing that we have to mount is our drill press. This drill press came from Harbor Freight. And we used to sell drill presses. They were fantastic, but I'll tell you, it's hard to beat Harbor Freight. And I recommend them. I've got floor presses. I've got every kind of drill press that you can imagine, but I always go back to these tabletop sizes, and they're really nice. And if you get a 12-speed from Harbor Freight, it's all the torque you need. Okay, especially for drilling simple stuff like kydex and small handle materials for knife making and things like that. Okay, this particular mount is going to require two 3-inch lag bolts with washers. Okay, so they have 2 mounting holes in the base. Okay, what most people don't know and what they end up making their mistake on is if it's your first time using a drill press, remember you can loosen the collar to the base plate on it and you can rotate it out of your way. This makes it a lot easier to work on your mounting. So I'm again going to use 2 lag bolts, standard socket, pilot drill, and I think that's going to take care of it. Thanks, guys. Meet you around front. Okay, let me explain that I've put the drill press on the end on purpose. And that is so that when you're actually doing your work, you have plenty of clearance. You can get around on both sides of it to hold things down. You can even put clamps on it for things that you're, like a knife blade, you want to clamp it off so that it doesn't spin on you if it grabs. And you want a nice front edge on it so that you can get plenty of torque on your drill press, okay? So think ahead on this. That way when you mount it, it's in the right position for you to use it for the most usefulness that you can get out of it. All right, we're going to set our first pilot hole on the end. This is one of the tools that has a tall structure to it, so it's going to have a lot more need to be mounted properly. Make sure that you put one of your lag bolts into the end 2x4 to give it the maximum amount of meat possible. Okay, let's drill us a hole here. Try not to move your base so that you can get your first lag bolt in nice and clean. And I can see the hole right through there. I'll get it started. Okay, this is a long one. Because it's going through such a big piece of meat under there, it feels tight. Several of the last turns on your socket are going to feel good and tight. So back off and look, make sure you didn't over tighten it too much. Come back, get ready for your final hole. Set that straight up and down as you can get it. Okay? Again, if you think you need it, mount you a base plate under the bottom and just simply drill through both of those, the top surface in your base plate, and use that to mount the screw with a little bit more meat under it. Okay? Let's get that going. If you have to, you can move your base around. Okay, I can feel it tightening up a little, so it's getting close to the bottom. And we're going to ease in on it and back off and look. Okay, that looks fantastic. Give her a good test and you're good to go. We have all 4 tools mounted now. The only thing left to do is to explain the opening. And basically what that is an area for you to work with your Kydex on. Now, if you know, at Holster Smith and Knife Kits, we have cut to size cutting block surface. Okay? Some of the most cost-effective material that you can get is that standard white cutting block for cutting Kydex and scoring it with your razor knife. But I've left enough room in the center of my bench so that I can actually work with my materials. Okay? A lot of times guys are trying to position everything so that they have equal room between them. You don't need that. Leave you a nice work position in the center, and I think you're going to really end up being happy with that. Okay? So on a future video, we're going to show you how to add your cutting block surface, and maybe we'll go ahead and add a heat oven on that video as well. Okay? Thanks again, guys, and if you have any questions about this or any of our other projects, pick up the phone and give us a call. Hey, we're here to help you, and we're more than happy to get on the phone and help you out while you're doing your work. Okay? Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.